Because even if you're right, you can be 100% wrong in the way you handle things. And now you said you create a bigger mess, a bigger issue that did not have to be, because you got to be Mr. or Mrs. Nitpick all the time. And, you know, it could be a hot mess. We've seen it so many times, and it gets you nowhere.
This discussion covers information from our new book, 21 Days to a Better Marriage. You can sign up to pre-order the book now at the link in our description. Thank you, and let's get back to the discussion.
When you're having these conversations, you're going to have to set some rules and some boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to end up arguing all the time.
All the time.
So these are real easy. First one is don't assume. Don't make assumptions. If I ask you a question and then you respond to me, I can't assume why that is, or why you have that opinion, or why you responded that way and all of that. I mean, we do that all the time. Don't assume when you're having these conversations. If you don't know, ask the question. Don't assume that you just know what's going on. The biggest issue I see is people to say, yeah, my spouse is just like this, that, the other. And it turn out it ain't even like that. You're making assumptions. Don't get nitpicky on details, okay? Sometimes y'all talking and be like, well, the reason that bothered me is because last time this happened, you did blah, blah, blah. And they get a detail wrong. And you're like, well, that's not what happened. What really happened was blah, 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 blah. And it's like, before you know it, the conversation is derailed because you're trying to correct every little detail.
Absolutely.
This is very practical advice here. Don't get nitpicky on the little details. At the end of the day, everyone's perception is different. People misremember things. People don't remember stuff right, blah, blah, blah. If you get caught up in every little detail, you're never going to get anywhere in this conversation. So don't get nitpicky.
Because even if you're right, you can be 100% wrong in the way you handle things. And now you said you create a bigger mess, a bigger issue that did not have to be, because you got to be Mr. or Mrs. Nitpick all the time. And, you know, it could be a hot mess. We've seen it so many times, and it gets you nowhere.
Yeah. And then they're like, let it go. Like, it's not that big a deal.
It
like,
really
let this
isn't.
little small detail go. All right. And the last thing is don't get offended. And we kind of mentioned this before, but what I mean by this time is if you're talking and your spouse reveals to you something that they don't like about you or that you've done, don't get offended. Just let it roll right off your back.
Don't get offended, because if offense is not in you, and I think I said that because you said I pushed that button.
Yeah.
If the button's not there,
Yeah, exactly.
it can't be pushed.
Exactly.
My mom used to say all the time when I was growing up, or my dad too, you can't be offended if offense is not in you.
Exactly.
And you say, well, I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do. As you spend time with the Holy Spirit, and as you discover how to communicate, these offensive buttons will be removed from you. If you're not a person that can be corrected easily, you're going to be an offended person. You are an offended person. Most people who can't be corrected are people who are easily offended all the time, because again, they have this sense about themselves that they always right. Oh, I know what I need. I know what I want. So, you know, I know it when I see it. Bruh, sis, most times you don't. You don't know what you need.
Nope.
You really don't. You think you know, but all the things that you thought you needed got you in trouble. You know, all them ex-girlfriends and ex-wives and husbands and stuff, that's proof right there. You don't know what you need.
Yeah, definitely, right?
Okay.
That's an experience. That's failures, unfortunately.
Exactly, it is. So to wrap this up, it's like communication is the core to a successful marriage. And it doesn't matter how long you've been married, it can always be improved on. You grow in it. I enjoy this season of our lives more because of our communication, not because everything has always been easy. We still had challenges. We still have gone through hard things, but we can note that our communication is so much better. So we don't have that unrest that we used to have in the early days. So communication is so important. It's everything.
We promised a bonus tip maybe after we give our 3 keys, and it's very simply, very quickly, keep a journal. After you have these conversations. Because sometimes you're not going to get a chance in the conversation to put your feelings back out there. Sometimes you're listening to the other person and you've got thoughts, write them down. Because sometimes you get self-process. Sometimes you don't need to throw it out there right then and there because it could cause an issue. But just write it down, and then you become self-reflective and write down what it is that you've retained from what they said and see. You used to teach this in school. It's kind of like homework. Like, okay, as you're writing it down, that's what's committing it to memory. And you're going to write down, what did your spouse say? What did you gather from it? Try to be an analytical of your spouse. Like, what do you think they meant when they said that? Write it down and kind of process it and process your feelings. So journaling is going to be very important, and it's an aspect of our book.
Yeah, and how you felt, your emotions, all those things. And it's very important because you can go back and look at those things years later and just see your growth and your development, or see if you're still dealing with those same issues and say, okay, I need to really hone in and work on this.
So keep a journal. That's our bonus tip.